to you guys.
Hi, Lori. How are you? It's nice to see you.
Great. It's nice to see you.
Well, welcome to our interview series about women in mortgage. We're so pleased to have you here. We've been talking to women all over the country, and we're so happy to have you as one of our guests. So thanks for taking the time to chat with us today.
Absolutely. Happy to do it.
I'm going to let Liz get us started because she always loves to ask the first question.
Well, the first question is, Lori, would you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the business.
Yes. So Lori Richardson, I'm with Cornerstone Home Lending in Denver, and I have been in the business for 35 years this year. So just ticking over that. I got into the business a long time ago. My degree is in finance and real estate, and my mom was a realtor when I was growing up, and I decided I wanted to be in mortgage banking because back then there was a 15 or a 30 or fixed rate loan. Like that was the only option. And there wasn't really any really great financial counsel that went around into the decision of a mortgage loan that I could tell. And I got my degree in, again, finance and real estate, and I went into secondary marketing, buying and selling mortgage-backed securities, and which was great. I learned a ton, but there was no borrower interaction. And soon I moved into the retail environment after that. But it was just to help bring a little bit of counsel to an industry that didn't have very much. That was really the goal.
Secondary gives you a lot of insight. I bet that was an interesting, I've heard processors start, I've heard a lot of different angles, underwriters sometimes, assistants, but never secondary into sales.
I know, it was really weird. I wouldn't recommend.
Sorry.
We're all working from home, except you, Lori. It looks like you're at the office.
I'm actually at home, but yeah.
Oh, it looks lovely. So, is there any special insight that you have into the business you think maybe some of us don't have being from secondary? I mean, I think that that's a really interesting angle.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think part of when we were talking before the call about, what is turn times, I have a really special insight into how long it takes to get a loan closed and then also shipped, insured, and, packaged and all that on the back end. Mm-hmm. And just really from a market standpoint, being able to understand the mechanics of what's going on in the industry and the economy and how that's going to impact mortgage interest rates. And ultimately from a financial perspective, right, from their investments to, we spend a lot of time with people helping them integrate their loan into the rest of their financial plan. So we ask all sorts of questions about, from an estate planning perspective, how you doing? What's the last time you reviewed your will, your trust? Do you have all of those things set up? And I think secondary kind of gives you that perspective of being able to counsel them and help them build their net worth. Let's face it, we can't teach something that we don't know or haven't done ourselves. And so I think secondary is a great way. At least it helped me to understand the financial markets and really have a passion for helping people build their net worth by understanding the markets and then bringing that to my clients and then helping them say, hey, I learned this the hard way. You can learn it the hard way or the easy way. Let's help you learn it the easy way.
Absolutely. Super interesting stuff.
Okay.
I like it. Yeah. And I know Missy was like, I have no idea what secondary is, but secondary is where they set rates and do everything behind the scenes. So big brain stuff. So cool.
Awesome.
Yep. And really buy and sell the loans behind the scenes that allow us to continue to have funds to keep our industry rolling.
Right. Yeah. So, Lori, how have you been brave as a producer and asked for what you need? A lot of what we've been asking women is to help other women understand how they can be a little bit braver in the industry. So how have you been brave and asked for what you need?
I think brave comes down to having the courage to know the value that you bring. And maybe let me take it back a step further. It takes courage to figure out who we are, right? And maybe that's the benefit of being in my 50s, right? I know who I am now and I know who I'm not. But understanding the value that we bring and purposely creating in me the person that I need to be in order to be able to add value to people. And when you know that you're bringing value to people and that you truly have their best interest at heart, then it's easy to say, here's what I need so that I can continue to give you more of what you need. It kind of creates that win-win situation, right? So I think the answer to that question really is working on me first and becoming the person that I need to be in order to be able to draw people to me instead of pulling people and just hoping that they come, becoming the person that I need to be so that so that I'm adding value to their lives. In this case, typically their financial lives or their emotional or their intellectual lives. But then standing up and saying, I know the value that I'm going to bring, and I know it's worth it. And so, yes, I need either this special thing or this special thing or that special thing, but the value that I'm going to bring is going to far outweigh what I'm asking from you. So I guess that's kind of my perspective on that question.
Not selling at that point.
Right.
It's not.
Or, you know, it's really funny. Somebody said the other day, had introduced me, that somebody that I didn't really know, and she said, "You're in sales, right?" And I'm like, "No, I really don't consider myself a salesperson. We spend time educating our clients and laying out all the options. And if by doing that, and I tell people flat out, I have no horse in that race. It does not matter to me personally whether you buy a home or you don't. I want to help you see the benefit. If it truly will help you build your net worth and get you closer to your financial goals, great. We are here to help you. If it doesn't, and we find that, we'll recommend that you don't." And I think when you really approach it that way, and as more of an educator, I have nothing to sell. People sell themselves, not only on the transaction itself, but on our service, because they know that we'll be an advocate for them as we move through the process. So I think you're exactly right.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you wish you knew at the beginning of your career?
Oh my gosh.
And this can apply to secondary, or it can apply to when you started doing loans. I mean, or both. It could be both.
That's a really great question. I think I wish I had known that who you become and who you're becoming is way more important than who you are today. And when we surround ourselves with people that encourage us, we become like the 5 people that we surround ourselves with most, right? I think if I would have known that early on, I would have been very careful with the people that I allowed into my world. Fortunately, I was around some really amazing people early in my career, and I think it really changed the trajectory of my career, and certainly who I became as a mother and a wife and a servant of God. But I think I wish I would have known that to really pay attention to that and choose wisely the people that you let speak into your life, because we can do anything that we set our minds to. And I guess I didn't really know that early on in my career. I thought, you know, here's who I am, and here's the resources available to me. And I didn't really know that I could really accomplish any goal I set my mind to. I just had to find the right mentor, and I had to have the right role models to help me get there.
I love that so much. I actually have that a post-it note on my office wall that says, "You are the company you keep." So keep the company that lifts you up instead of the company that brings you down. And I think it's such an important thing, I think, for women who are especially in the beginning of their careers, to remember, like, you are the company that you keep. Seek out those women that can hold you up and lift you up, and men too, but really find those people that can lift you instead of, you know, forcing you to feel struggle or shame or, you know, any of these other things that come into business and being a woman in business. I think it's just such an important thing to remember.
Words matter so much, and I've learned. Here's the other thing I think that I wish I would have known then, is that the way that people interpret the world. I've been studying a lot, thanks to my daughter, the Enneagram, and I don't know if you guys have any familiarity with the Enneagram.
Oh, yes.
So, amazing stuff, right? But the way that people interpret the world around them and the way that comes out can have a really big impact on us. And I think especially as women, because typically we connect with our hearts versus our heads, that those words matter even more to us. So when we have someone who speaks into us, and I had somebody tell me early in my career, I was probably 24, so like 2 years ago, just kidding.
Yeah.
That said, you know, I had been given an opportunity for a national trainer position, and I'm like, I don't know if I can do that. I've never done that before. And she looked me straight in the eyes and she said, "Lori, there's no reason that you can't. Why would you even think that?" And it was this time that she said, if they think you can do it, they see something in you that they believe you can do it. So rise to the challenge and allow them to help you pull that out of yourself. And it's probably some of the best advice, I need to tell her that I ever got, because it really helped me to see, you know, she could have said, "Well, you probably can." And that would have been very, very different. And so I think I kind of migrate to people who have a very positive sense of self and self-image, and are free with their praise, and they're always looking for the best in people versus always finding the nitty-gritty things that aren't right.
No, I think that's great. And I love our age. I think that once we hit 40 something, things aren't as scary as they were. I don't know, I seem to have less fear, right? Like nothing's killed me or eaten me yet, so I'm going to keep going, right? Yeah, totally. What words of advice would you have for somebody who's looking to make a change? And in this case, maybe not just companies, but like a transition from another part of finance to another part of finance. Like I have a friend that just moved from underwriting to sales. You have any words of advice?
Yeah. I think I would go back to remembering that you can do anything you set your mind to, and God opens doors for us that sometimes we can't see why they're there. But if you're called to be where you are, there's a reason, and looking for those resources that can help pull you forward. If I were looking to make a change, whether it was within a company or within a new role within that company, I would be looking for the people that are on the other side of the door. Are they people? Are they going to contribute to the 5 people that I want to be like in my life? Do I have resources that can help me bridge the gap between where I am now and where I want to go? I've always sought out somebody who's done what I want to do. I want to go talk to the 5 people that have already done it at the level I want to do it. And I just ask a lot of questions. There's never been anyone in the world, literally, that has turned me down, that I've just said, whether I know them or I don't, I just want to brainstorm with you. I admire your success, and I love, what you've done. Can you just spend 20 minutes with me and, help me to learn? It's kind of like what you guys are asking right now. What would you do differently? What do you wish you would have known then? And having someone on the other side that can help you get closer to where you want to be. I have always felt like there were only 2 companies in the entire country that I would work for, and I ended up working for both of them because I liked who the people were. And I've always said, if you're looking at changing companies or changing within that, who you are going to be surrounded with or by every single day matters, right? They're either going to lift you up or they're going to look at you when you fall. And if you have people who are going to be your biggest cheerleaders and help lift you up, you'll be in great shape. I always tell people, look at the decisions that the company makes when no one is looking. And that's the same thing for any kind of supervisor, right? If they consistently make great decisions and they care more about the person than the transaction, probably a pretty good sign. If it's the reverse of that, red flag. I'm not saying don't do it, but that would lead me to ask a lot of questions.
Be aware and be awake. And this whole series kind of came out of, the conference came out of my need to network with people and to bounce ideas, just like we're doing right now. I feel like as women producers, sometimes we're a little isolated. There's occasions that I feel a little isolated and I don't have people that live the same experiences or relate the same way. And so I love what you said. That's exactly why we're doing this.
I think one of the things that is so important that you just talked about is taking risk to talk to people that you don't know and to talk to people who are in positions of power, right? And I think that our lives and our connections expand so much more, and our ability to connect with other people expands so much more when we're willing to take the risks to talk to people who we hold up as our mentors or our heroes. Or, I often am coaching my clients and encouraging my clients to ask people who they look up to and value, even famous people, if they will give them 20 minutes of their time, people that are doing the things they want to be doing, which is why I'm always asking Brene Brown to come on my Facebook Live. She hasn't done it yet.
We'll keep going, because she will.
Someday I'm sure she's gonna. But, I think it's just such an important thing, that this idea of being willing to put yourself out there to learn from other people. And the only way you do that is by connecting with people. So I love that so much. Thank you for
basically people have been really willing to connect with us. And I think that that's a lesson here. We haven't had any problem. I want to encourage people to reach out to everybody, right? People say, yeah, sure, I'll tell you, especially at our stage of our career. I think there are oftentimes, regardless of refi booms, I mean, let's set that aside. But typically, none of us are like, you know what, get out of here. I don't have time for you. Most of us have 5, 10, 20 minutes to sit down and chat and give a little advice. And we like it. I like it.
So, Lori, what is your favorite negotiation secret?
I think for me, one of my favorite books of all times is The Art of War. And it taught me early on, my early 20s, that if we are negotiating to win, we will lose, right?
Yep.
We are negotiating to provide a win-win on both sides, we all win. And so I think for me, my greatest strategy is, or tactic, is listening, right? If I don't know what you are really after, and I don't know what's in it for you, then I don't have a way to be able to craft that win-win situation. I think so many people go into a conversation listening, but in the back of their mind, they're like preparing their next response, right? It can happen with your teenager, where you're like, but when we really go in to listen, to say, how can I really be a resource to you? And yes, we have this thing that we're trying to negotiate here, but if I really understand what it is you're trying to accomplish, then maybe there's even something I can help you accomplish that's outside of our transaction. It happens in loans all the time. Yes, you want to buy this $650,000 Park Hill home, but have you thought about retirement? Have you thought about college education for your kids? There are all these other things that we need to be talking about. And let's make sure that when we're crafting the solution for that Park Hill home, we're also bringing in those other pieces so that we're helping you fulfill your long-term goal, not just this myopic. And I think that really helps. That's the same way that I approach any negotiation. It's listen, what is it that you're trying to accomplish? And what resources in my world, what people do I have access to that might have a resource that we could bring to you, whether it helps in this or not. How can we be helpful?
I'm so glad you brought up The Art of War. That was one of those books that was just so fundamental in my 20s to changing the way that I negotiated almost everything.
I love it.
What's one empowering idea? Well, you can do more than one, but what's an empowering idea that you have that you would like to share with women?
I think it kind of goes back to figuring out who you are, and again, the value that you bring to the world, and not being afraid to shine in that space. I think that all of us are, I've been a member of a lot of top producing groups over the years. And at first, when I was part of these groups, I was like, oh my gosh, I heard this idea and that idea. And I'm an implementer, right? So I would take and I hear all these great ideas, and I never had problems saying, oh, I implemented too much, was the bottom line. But I didn't really figure out who Lori was. I would implement the idea, and sometimes we'd have great success with it, but it wasn't really reflective of what my values are. So I think Building Champions has a great tool that is called a life planning tool, and it encourages you to sit down and actually build your life plan. Dennis Waitley says people spend more time planning their big Christmas vacation than they do planning their life, right? So Daniel teaches this great tool, and you just sit down and say, okay, what are the values? What are the things that are really, truly important to me? So that I can run, once I have those values listed, I can prioritize them, right, in order of importance. And every decision I make, I can run through that funnel. So if I'm trying to figure out, do I work with this realtor or this realtor? Do I stay late and do 5 more loans tonight? Or do I go home and have dinner with my family? Every single decision can be run through this filter, and it makes it ridiculously simple to know. It sounds silly that, but in the heat of business, in the throes of it, sometimes you're like, you kind of get stymied. But I think the empowering piece is figuring out some of the things that I implemented ended up like working great, but they weren't really a reflection of who I was. And so I'd hear all these great ideas, and they were working for a lot of different people, and they were awesome ideas, but they weren't really it wasn't really how I wanted to serve it at my heart level. So I had to figure out who is it that I want to be? What service do I want to bring, and how do I want to serve? And once I figured that out, it was easy for me to say, here's who I serve really well, and here's the people that I might not. Before we got on this call today, I was talking to a guy who had spoken with another lender, and I just said, I'm so glad, that we're talking about this right now. Let me just be transparent with you. The only thing that we have to ask from our clients right now is just select a lender up front, because I wish I had the capacity to pre-approve all of Denver. I currently don't. And I may just pull my hat out of the ring if finding and working with 3 or 4 different lenders is what you want. I'll support you in that. I'm not your gal. So I think finding that out first and not being afraid to say no, realizing that by saying yes to the wrong thing or a good thing, we might miss saying yes to a really great thing because we've committed to this like okay thing.
Mhm. No, and I also say that when you send them away, they always come back. There's a reverse psychology with doing that. I don't know why, but a lot of times they come back. No, you're it. I want you.
Yeah, the hard part is like when you really want them to go away. Like, let's just go.
Yeah, I know it's hard. It's totally hard. It's totally hard. Well, that's
so much for your time, Lori. It's just been such a pleasure chatting with you. I wrote down so many good little nuggets of things to take away from this. So thank you so much for
Absolutely.
hang in there.
Okay, ladies, have a great day.
Thanks.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.